Welcome to Under the Hood Podcast. In this podcast, we pop the hood and give you an inside look at the hows and whys of our ministry here at Cornerstone Church. I'm Michael Nave, your host. Hello, everyone. It's great to have you with me today, and I am privileged to welcome into the studio Dustin Keel, pastor over all things worship. Dustin, great to have you here with us today.
I'm excited. Glad to be here.
Man, I know our people have no idea what a day in the life of a guy over worship looks like. And I was just reminded of all the things you have your hands in. Yesterday, I walked into the community room and there you were working with a brand new vocalist for our team. And recently you've had worship retreat and songwriters retreat, student worship retreat. Dude, thank you for how you are investing your life in our worship leaders and how we see God using your team. Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, you're so welcome. Lots of retreating in there. Yeah.
that was repeated retreating. Yeah. Do you ever show up to work? Is the question.
I plead the fifth.
So here we go. Dustin, we had a tense staff meeting this week. Maybe the most tense of one we've had, like just really vibrant conversation, differences of opinions. And it was so neat to see how our team worked through that with love, with respect for each other. And we're going to jump into a conversation that I would say is not quite resolved.
Sure.
A little bit raw, a little bit real.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to you, kind of introduce us to this topic about our discussion, and then we'll dig in and see what we can learn together.
It was a really great conversation, even though probably the collective blood pressure did go up a bit. And it was around staff values and church values, core values. And so we were testing out some things that, are they a value? Are they not a value? And one of them was refreshing authenticity.
Yes.
Right. And it's a value that many people in the room felt like, yes, this totally describes us. And other people in the room were kind of like, well, I'm not so sure because of X and Y.
Right.
And so what it really boiled down to was kind of the relationship between authenticity, being who you really are, and relatability. Can a person connect with you or with what you're doing?
Yes.
And I think for a while there was a bit of confusion between the two terms. They were kind of seen as one and the same. They're a little bit different because we had people coming in, I think, if I recall correctly, mostly new folks. They would come in and have an experience and feel like the presentation level, the presentation quality was at a place where they felt like, wow, it feels so polished. Is it even real? Is there room for somebody like me in a place like this? And so we were kind of wrestling with that.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, like, does that mean we're being fake? Or is it something else? And so it was a really fun conversation.
So in this tension, we even talked about the danger of false dichotomies. You know, don't pit these two against each other. So go ahead and speak a little more to kind of where our conversation landed, and then some discoveries you've been making, and then we'll share very vulnerably. We're still fighting for this. We're still struggling in this. So go ahead and speak to that.
Yeah, so I spent some time reflecting on the conversation myself, and whenever I think about authenticity as it differs from relatability, I am aware of, I think of the fact that somebody can be completely honest and real and who they are, and yet I may or may not be able to relate to them because we just have different experiences, perspective, just kind of come from different places. It doesn't mean they're being inauthentic, but I may not be able to connect with who they are, what they're doing, right? And especially if I don't know their story, especially in kind of a first impression situation, I just may not see anything that resonates with me. And so as that pertains to people coming and having an experience in gathered worship, they may walk in the room and see people functioning at a really high level and feel like, oh, I can never do that. In fact, people have said that very thing.
Yes.
And so it's the question of, oh, we don't want people to feel that way. What do? Do we dumb it down? Do we make it feel like, oh, anybody could do this? We don't think that's the answer. So then how do we call them higher?
Yes.
How do we do that? And as I think about that, what's so cool is that that's who we are. If people stick around long enough and they choose to engage, they'll see that is happening all the time, all over the place. I'm a prime example of that. I'm somebody who was called higher.
Yes.
And so I'm living proof that someone can see something in you that you don't even see in yourself. You may legitimately think, I could never do that.
Yes.
But somebody sees it in you. They call it out in you. They walk with you. They support you. They offer you the training that you need. And over a space of time, you can look back and say, wow, I'm doing something that I never thought was possible for me.
And why is that so important to you to help your team members do what they previously thought not possible for them? Vocally, expression, leading worship, publicly praying in front of other people. Why is that so fulfilling for you as a pastor?
I think it's because God put it in our hearts. Like God loves growth. Like all throughout Scripture, we see these pictures of agricultural metaphors and growth processes, right? And there's this parable of the talents where God entrusts, metaphorically, it's God giving us gifts and talents, that He's giving us something to do with those things. There's a potential that's bound up in that. And He wants us to invest those things and to experience the joy of seeing a return on that investment, of seeing fruit from that.
Yes.
And for somebody like me who's experienced that, it's like the best thing ever. And once you've tasted it, you want everybody to have that experience. So that's why I'm so passionate about it for my team and for other people in the church.
Yes. And behind the scenes, I see you and Chesney and other leaders on your team regularly celebrating a team member who took it to the next level. And a novice like me in the area of worship doesn't realize the work they put into it, or I don't even realize the barrier they overcame. And to see the joy on their faces, to see the camaraderie of your team who have worked together to do that is so inspiring. So inspiring. And one of the things that a staff member added was that at first, the presentation was so polished that he felt like, I can't even relate to that. But as he chose to relate with you personally, it took on a whole new life, where it wasn't just the dude on the stage who can hit higher notes than I can. It was, wow, Dustin loves the Lord, and he genuinely is inviting me into worship. And that was a special moment at our staff meeting.
I love that moment. And I have been that guy many times. I think we've all had the experience of allowing our baggage and our past to cause us to prejudge someone or something. And for that reason, I don't get too upset with people who come in and get us wrong, who read us wrong. I think as Christ followers, we got to be patient with those folks as they get to know the real us. But if you think about it, to put it in more specific terms, we all, upon first impression, we rely on our past and our experiences to make sense of what's going on in front of our faces. And so if you have an experience where you were at a church and they had high production value, and when you drilled down to the core, what you saw was phony, then the next time you see that, you can't help but kind of project that,
assume phoniness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, I don't fault people for that. And I try to remind myself that this is many people's reality so that I can be patient and offer moments that allow people to get to know me a little bit better. And this is something that you do all the time as a lead pastor, as the guy teaching from the platform on a regular basis. You're sharing moments from your life that are very personal, that many times, I think most often when you choose to share those moments, they are not even casting you in the best light.
Right, yes. And you and I can easily do that, willingly do that, because we know Jesus is the hero of our story.
That's right.
Like, we are not the hero. We are not the model. Jesus is. And we get to share of our struggles as we take the journey in following Jesus and invite others to come along with us. So what's your challenge for us as a pastor who leads our people in worship? What would you challenge our people to do? Because on the staff side, we're going to continue to struggle with and fight for and with each other, and to make sure that we're doing our very best to not do anything that's distracting, to continue to lead people toward Jesus. And so for our people who gather to worship with us, what challenge would you have for us as we show up at a weekend service?
Yeah, our goal when we gather in worship is that it would be an experience that we are all equally engaging in and participating in.
Yes.
Equally committed to that. And there is this thing we can slide into where it's, the presenter on the platform and the spectator in the seat. And it takes a bit of intentionality from everybody to avoid that situation. And I just want to reference a screenshot that somebody sent to me that totally applies to this. It's from Shane Pruitt. He's the National Next Gen guy for the North American Mission Board.
Yeah, we had him in the building a year ago. Great guy.
Yes, he's been in our building and spoken from our platform. And he says this. He says, want to change your worship experience at church? Pray before you get there. Ask God to speak to you. Listen to worship music on the way. Take a Bible with you instead of relying on the screens. Don't run late. Sometimes that can't be helped.
Yes.
Sing loudly like you mean it. Take notes. Expect God to move. I think our default mindset for many people is that I'm going to come and sit and kind of be a consumer.
Yes.
And it's not even always a conscious choice that we make. But if we want to do something different, we do have to make a conscious choice to do something different, to have a different mindset. And these things that I just read from Shane, it's a great starting point to consider how you might come in with just in a different mode, ready to be a participant. Yeah.
Those are such good words. Dustin, I really appreciate the vulnerability that you express as you lead us in worship. You've shared of your own journey. You share vulnerably in posture, in words, in attitude, in action. Thank you for challenging us to actively worship and not just watch a show. You lead with integrity, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your maturity that when we had a conversation like that among our staff, you didn't get defensive and walk out. You didn't point fingers and get upset. And you really have that posture that we need to lead us in this next season of worship. Thank you for being the person you are. Thank you for continuing to listen to the Spirit tweak you and grow you as we grow together. I couldn't be more excited about our future of worship. I couldn't be more proud of our staff as we continue conversation to make sure that we're not presenting in a distracting way. We are inviting people to come and worship. So this has been a great conversation. I hope our people have heard your invitation to actively worship, to come ready to worship, and by doing so, be invited into the presence of God, and be invited, all of us, to grow in ways, to believe, to have faith that God could grow us in ways that we've given up on and thought not possible, that will extend to all of life, not just what we do together when we worship. Thank you for these really encouraging words.